everyone, it's Jananie and welcome back to another episode of #EpicBookRegs. So this is the monthly series that I do here on the Epic Reads channel where I recommend a bunch of books based on a certain theme. So we've done a bunch of fun and exciting themes before, so definitely go check out the playlist in the description down below if you want to go watch those. But for today's theme, I thought I would go with kind of the time of the year that we're in. So I thought I would give you some recommendations to treat yourself for getting through 2020. 2021 is on the horizon, so I feel like these are books that you can pick up at the end of 2020 to treat yourself for making it through this year and for all the things that have happened this year, and to just lose yourself in a book and feel good at the end of this year before a new one begins. So I have a whole mix of books today. Some of them are contemporary, some of them are sci-fi fantasy, but all of them are really engaging and fun, and I think you'll really enjoy them. So the first book that I have to recommend is for the type of person who wants something fun and just easygoing and something to just put a smile on their face. And that book is I'll Be the One by Layla Lee. This has been one of my favorite books of this entire year. It was such a warm-hearted contemporary that just put a huge smile on my face and just made me so happy while reading it. But this is about our charming main character, Sky Shin, who is a fat, bisexual Korean-American girl who is just trying to own herself and just be proud of who she is as she is. And she's constantly getting this like very negative energy from her mother, who wants her to lose weight and who also doesn't want her to become a K-pop star. So there's this K-pop competition that has come to LA, I believe, and Sky wants to enter in both the singing and dancing category. Her mother doesn't want her to enter at all because she's just scared of what people will say, but Sky is putting other people's judgments out of her mind and she's just going for it. And so she enters in both categories, and this is like the whirlwind kind of story of her going through this competition, but also meeting the other contestants and learning from them and maybe also falling in love. But the entire story is centered around Sky and her lovely and charming personality, and she is what made me fall in love with this story. So highly recommend if you're looking for something lighthearted and fun and just something that will cheer you up at the end of the year. On a totally different note, if you're looking for a kind of fantasy to lose yourself in, but one that has a ton of romance, this kind of juicy and delicious, but a book that is also super funny and just hilarious and a great read for the end of the year, then I recommend Serpent and Dove by Shelby Mahurin. This is a fantasy that follows a witch and a witch hunter and involves the trope of a marriage of convenience, and it is just this really harebrained situation, and I absolutely loved it. It was just so much fun. It is definitely an enjoyable, quick read, and the main characters have some really great banter, and it does have the fantasy element, so you can kind of get lost in the world. But I think the main part of this book is the romance. So if you're looking for a nice romance with some spicy bits in it and just some crazy hilarity going on, then I highly recommend this one. All right, the next recommendation is for the person who wishes they could have traveled this year and would really just like to escape to somewhere else. That person should definitely pick up Again But Better by Christine Riccio. This is a book that follows a 20-year-old main character who is taking a study abroad semester in Europe, and she is going to be traveling around in Europe while also completing this creative writing kind of program while she's there. But there's a lot at stake here since our main character Shane is actually a pre-med student, and that's what her parents think she's doing in Europe. And she's also just kind of questioning everything that she's been doing in her life and wants to give herself a chance to redo college, if you will, and do it again but better. This is for anyone who wants to kind of remake themselves but also wishes they could have traveled this year and is looking for kind of a nice romance read with some funny banter and just some really sweet moments. I absolutely love this. It was a lot of fun and it's a very quick and bingeable read. Alright, next I have the perfect read for the end of the year. If you're someone who loves the holidays, if you're someone who loves New Year's, if you love New York City, then I highly recommend picking up Dash and Lily's Book of Dares by Rachel Cohn and David Levithan. There has recently been a Netflix adaptation of this, which I absolutely loved, but I highly recommend going and checking out the book first because it is such a lovely little thing. It is such a quick little read, but it's also like a ode to book lovers living in a city and to holiday times, and it's for the type of people who both love and hate Christmas and want to find the joy in this time of year. But this basically follows our two main character Dash and Lily during like the Christmas break time, and it all starts when Lily's older brother sets up this little scheme where he writes some dares in a little red journal and sticks it on a shelf in the Strand, and Dash ends up being the one who picks up that journal and starts following the dares, and Lily gets kind of roped into it, and the two of them start passing dares back and forth throughout New York City and leaving the journal in different places without meeting each other, and it is just this really beautiful and interesting way of falling in love in a city during holiday time. Alright, the next recommendation I have is for the type of person who wants to get their mind blown at the end of the year, and I recommend binging the Ark of Side series by Neal Shusterman. So this series consists of Scythe, my personal favorite Thunderhead, and the final book, The Toll. But this is a really cool kind of sci-fi dystopian series, and it's set in a version of our future where humanity has kind of conquered all types of death and disease, and so now there's nothing that really kind of plagues them. But there's also no way to curb population growth. And since for some mysterious reason they cannot expand into other planets, humanity resorts to something called Scythes. And Scythes are these people who are given the power and kind of authority to kill people. So they have a quota that they have to kind of fulfill every year, and people that they have to glean each year. And so our first book, Scythes, starts with our two main characters, Citra and Rowan, training to become apprentice Scythes, and they will end up in a competition to see who ends up becoming the actual Scythe, because both of them can't become it. And although it starts with just these two main characters, in the later books we really do expand to many more, and it just blows your mind as you go through this series. So highly recommend if you're looking for a sci-fi, and if you're looking for something that's so deeply and intricately plotted, I highly recommend this. Alright, the next recommendation that I have is for the gamer, but also the type of person who just wants to get lost in kind of a fun and exciting game-like world. I highly recommend Warcross by Marie Lu. This is a really fast-paced and fun book. It is set in a kind of near future version of our world where there is this game that has been created based off of this technology called the Neuralink, which kind of connects your brain to like virtual reality through these pair of glasses or contacts. And so there's this young creator of the Neuralink and of this game called Warcross, which is kind of like Capture the Flag but with crazy virtual worlds and like virtual items that you can collect. And it's a game that has kind of swept the world up. And so there are world championships and all of that. And our main character, Amika Chen, is this young girl living in New York City, and when she accidentally glitches herself into like a very public game of Warcross, she is contacted by the creator of the game, Hideo Tanaka, who happens to be a very young, very attractive Japanese man, and he contacts her and asks her to come to Japan and enter as a player in the next World Championships to find a hacker in the game. And so Mika kind of jumps on this opportunity. She'll also be getting a huge reward if she completes this, and she'll also get to compete in the World Championships. And so this is kind of like a championship story, but there's also a really strong love story in this, and there's also a bit of mystery and some really great twists. Alright, the next recommendation that I have is for the person who's looking for like the perfect fantasy to just binge at the end of this year. I would recommend the Folk of the Air series by Holly Black. So this consists of The Cruel Prince, The Wicked King, and The Queen of Nothing. So the thing I love about these books is that they are kind of set in a fantasy world that's adjacent to our world, and they involve fairies, some very cruel fairies that make you question whether, you know, humans maybe aren't so bad, and some really cutthroat and interesting and layered characters, and some really badass main female characters. This is a series with so many secrets and with characters that have so many sides to them, and it is definitely a bingeable series. Although I had to read this as each one was coming out, I highly recommend it as a bingeable series because each installment isn't very long, and the story is so action-packed and exciting that you just want to know what's going to happen next. So I really recommend it for that reason, and there are just so many twists and turns to the series that you'll just always be kept on the edge of your seat. Alright, and the final book that I want to recommend is if you are more of a literary reader and if you're the type of person who wants to pick up something historical and also get lost in a bit of a dream. And if you're that type of person, I would recommend The Kingdom of Back by Marie Lu. I know I already recommended a Marie Lu book in this video, but I must also recommend this one because it just came out this year and it is such a lyrical, beautiful read. If you're interested in a bit of history, this follows the life of Mozart and his sister Jananie, and it kind of tells the hidden, untold story of his older sister and her musical talents and how they were often overshadowed by her younger brothers because he was a boy and she was a girl, and at the time no one gave value to her skills because she was a girl. But this also involves a little bit of magic and a little bit of fantasy. In history, the Mozart siblings told these stories amongst themselves in their carriage rides about this mysterious, you know, fantasy place called the Kingdom of Back. And so Marie Lu kind of brings to life that Kingdom of Back that they used to tell stories about in this book as sort of a real place that starts to encroach on the real world and Jananie and Mozart's lives and affects the trajectory of their lives. It is such a cool and interesting and just beautiful read, so I highly recommend. It's definitely the type of book that you can get lost in at the end of the year. But those are all of the books that I wanted to recommend for this video. I hope you found a book to treat yourself with for the end of the year, a book that will just put a smile on your face or let you get lost in a different world and just kind of put this year behind you. 2020 has definitely been a year, and I'm excited to move into 2021. But thank you so much for watching. Let me know down below what you guys would recommend someone else to read before the end of the year. I would love to hear all of your recommendations, and thank you so much for watching. I will see you in the next episode in 2021 of #EpicBookRecs. Bye!